My skin looks real bad today, but I promise it's not as bad as it looks. Okay, welcome back. More Daredevil. I'm filming from work today. This is episode 7. Yeah, this one was another pretty good one. They kill the eyeball guy. What was his name? Muse. We find out that Muse is a patient of Heather Glenn is the character. She's this therapist who is dating Matt, and he's the serial killer, and he's bad, and he tries to kill her, but Daredevil saves the day, and she shoots him full of bullets, because she ain't got a rule about killing. So yeah, that's the end of Muse, I guess. Which I guess leaves the last 2 episodes to be focused on Matt and Wilson Fisk. So cool. I'm all right with that. I do think it's a little bit sloppy. How about, okay, I think Muse is overall underwritten, but I get he's more of like a catalyst for Matt to become Daredevil again and Wilson Fisk to go harder on crime and vigilantes, and he's there to move our main characters forward and not so much to be an interesting character all in and of himself, because he's kind of just a generic crazy bad guy, mentally ill serial killer person. We get like a little bit of his backstory in this episode, but it's not all that interesting. In contrast, all the stuff with Bullseye in season 3 is incredible, and he's like a really, he ends up being an extremely interesting villain. One of my favorite things with that arc is like he's kind of a sociopath and is only really mimicking what it's like to have human emotions. So like when he's a kid, he learns this technique as with his therapist to try to relate to people by, if someone tells them something that's like sad or whatever, he'll just repeat, "Oh, that sounds hard. That sounds really hard." And like there's a few moments in the show earlier in the season before we get that episode where we get his backstory, where he says that and you don't even really notice it because he's so well practiced that it just sounds like he's genuinely trying to be empathetic, but it's like, no, he's just mimicking what empathy sounds like, and it's like so eerie, and all that stuff is excellent. So I don't know that I necessarily care about what was his name, Muse, as a character enough to get like a full arc of his like backstory and like why he is mentally the way he is. But it's something that I feel like the original Netflix Daredevil probably would have tried to do to flesh him out a little bit more. And in this episode where we do learn a little bit more about him, it felt kind of generic to me. Does that ultimately matter? I don't think so, because this show is really focused in on Matt and Kingpin, and all the stuff with those 2 characters is really solid. What else? Oh yeah, so I've been reading the Frank Miller Daredevil, which fucking rules. I know I'm not the first person to say that, but I'm reading it for the first time and really enjoying it. But Heather Glenn, the therapist lady that Matt is dating, is from the comics. She's in that arc, and she's like a on-again, off-again girlfriend, love interest of Matt. So she's from the comics. I don't think she's a therapist in the comics, but it is a character from the comics, more or less. And yeah, Matt has plenty of love interests, so I'm glad they decided to pull one from the comics and to do something a little different with her. I actually kind of like their relationship in the show. I think they have pretty good chemistry. Like there's a scene with them at the start of this episode that I think is just really nice and really well played. And they do some fun stuff with like the fact that he's blind, so he like is touching her face to feel what she looks like, and then that comes into the plot later. But there's something very intimate about that, and I think it's kind of nice. Also, they fuck in the shower because Matt's a Catholic boy, so he loves fucking. So yeah, I'm liking it. It's still going. We only have 2 more episodes, and they killed off who was the guy who was sort of the main villain up to this point in the series. So we'll see where it goes. Also, I've noticed the episodes are getting shorter now. This is fine in theory because it seems like they're just making the episodes as long as they need to be. And the main thing that happened in this episode was like Muse reveals himself and tries to kill the therapist lady, and then Daredevil stops him, and that's the main thing that happens. And it only took under 40 minutes to do all that stuff, so that's fine. Like, again, in the original Netflix show, all the episodes were like over 50 minutes, so this is the kind of episode where like we'd get like a subplot with Foggy's family, or like Karen working at the newspaper or whatever, and like I don't know that we always need that stuff, so I'm okay with it as long as it continues to feel intentional. Because the first few episodes were like over 50 minutes, and I'm like, damn, cool, we're getting like a lot of meaty stuff in here. And the last 2 or 3 episodes have been like 40 minutes tops. So it could just be a like, hey, that's all we wanted. That's the length that we felt we needed for this episode, and that seems to kind of be the case. But I hope that is the case, and it's not some like weird Disney thing where they ran out of money or something and they had to cut stuff that they wanted to do. But yeah, only 2 more episodes. I still don't really feel like I know what's gonna happen towards the end of the season. It feels like I feel like it'll be unlikely that the season will wrap up in a nice little bow, which I guess is fine because we know we're getting more, but I don't know. But that's this episode. Pretty good stuff. It's still just mostly character development with Matt and with Kingpin, and I really like those 2 characters, and I love their performances. So, gets a pass. That's it for this video. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.